everyone, and welcome. My name is Karen Davis. I am the Communications Director for the Camera Club of Richmond, and we are here in the beautiful garden at the Valentine Museum in downtown Richmond. And with me, I have one of our newer members, Keary Gottlieb. It used to be Keary Liv. Keary is an educator here at the Valentine Museum, and so we thought this would be a great place to do a video, and we're going to delve into a little bit of Keary's photography and maybe talk a bit about the museum too. So Keary, thanks for being here, and thanks for sharing some of your stuff. But before we see your work, tell us a little bit about yourself.
Well, I moved to Richmond about 5 years ago. Before that, I was in Dallas, and before that, in Beijing for a long time. I have two sons who are living in North Carolina now, two grown sons. I'm married, and Karen here was our photographer extraordinaire for the wedding. And Joel and I actually moved to Richmond on a whim. We did a spreadsheet. We were living in different states and needed a place to meet because neither one wanted to be where the other one was. So here we are, and it's worked out very nicely.
I love it. Okay. So I mentioned that you're an educator here at the Valentine. So tell us a little bit about what that is involved.
So the museum has been around since 1898, and we're actually on our 125th anniversary this year, and actually this week is all the celebrations. And since the early 1900s, around 1904, we've been doing school programs, starting with programs about the Powhatan Indians, and then now we've expanded out. And as an educator, school groups or retirement centers, all sorts of different groups, women's clubs, we go out and give talks, or they come to us and we do programs with them.
I love it. Awesome. Now, did the house have a history before it became the museum?
Yes, it did. It was built it was built in 1812 by John Wickham, who was a lawyer who defended Aaron Burr in this treason trial, and the house is neoclassical. I can go on for a very long time about the history here, but it had several owners until man Valentine bought it and left the house in his will as a museum and an endowment, and his brother Edward in charge. And so we've been going since 1898.
Wow, that's incredible. So let's switch gears back to you. When did you first pick up a camera?
So I got my first camera when I was 6 years old, and I enjoyed playing with it. And when I was in high school, I wanted to do photography. It just never happened. And a long time after that, I fell snow skiing and tore my ACL. And my ex-husband gave me a camera to keep me entertained while I was recovering from knee surgery. I think you can relate. And I had said before that I had our little point and shoot camera, and I would take photos of my kids, and then I go, oh, this is pretty. This is for my gallery showing someday, and I would make that joke. So he gave me that camera, and it's just kind of blossomed since there. So
you hinted at this a little bit, but where do you find your creative inspiration?
Oh, I'm struggling a little bit with that now, actually. Because I lived in Beijing, and it was just such an interesting place, and there was always so much different, and I've traveled a lot, and so I'm having to work on coming to Richmond. Not that Richmond's not interesting. There's a lot to be photographing here, but I'm having, I would take photos. I sold my photography in Beijing, and I would have like that memory that people who are foreigners who were also living in Beijing wanted to take back with them. And so that was sort of what I knew how to do. And so now I've branched out, and one of the end of year award winners is me branching out and trying different types of photography.
See that a little bit later.
Yes.
All right, I love it. And then I thought it was an interesting story how you heard about the Camera Club of Richmond.
Yes, so I mentioned that I do the talks for the Valentine, and one of our talks weaves photography and Richmond history. We have some that recreation, faith, different subjects that we weave with Richmond history, and one of them is photography. And so I'm giving the talk about Hankins and Booth starting the Camera Club in 1932, and I'm like, I wonder if it's still going. And so I looked it up, and here I am. So.
Oh, how about that? Yeah, actually, I think we are the oldest camera club in Virginia, and one of the oldest in the nation.
Definitely. I have the notes somewhere.
How about that? I love it. So what has been most important to you as a member of Camera Club of Richmond? I know it's only been about a year, I guess.
Yeah, just about a year.
Yeah.
Well, having an outlet, getting to know people, finding like Bob to print and frame things. Like, I just really didn't know where to start, and having the evaluations either sends me out to take photos, new photos, or also makes me look at my old photos a little bit differently. And so just the community, the sort of a finding a purpose and finding some inspiration.
Awesome. We've also heard, and you said that you like to travel.
Mm-hmm.
Tell us about some of those experiences, and then we have some photos that we're going to see from some of your travels.
So, like I said, I lived in Beijing, and so you have the idea you want to travel while you're in the neighborhood, and it's a pretty big neighborhood. And so we would travel. So the only photography trip I've done is to Myanmar. And that was an arranged photography trip, and that was fun because most of the rest of my photography is I had small kids for a lot of it, and family or whomever I'm traveling with, and just sort of fitting the photography in around Cub Scouts and around whatever other activities are going on. But yeah, I believe the photos we have here is from Bali and from Myanmar and a bit from Beijing as well.
Yeah.
So,
all right.
yes, so this photo is of Tiananmen. I always say it's actually Tiananmen. I think I have the tones wrong there anyway. Anyhow, this is kind of getting to be late at night, early evening rather, and it's in the snow. Beijing actually doesn't get much snow, and so I took the opportunity and wandered around some of the old hutongs and then out to Tiananmen Square here, and it was kind of fun to be able to see that at night. I didn't live close to this, so it was an outing just for me, for myself.
Yeah, in the snow.
In the snow.
Dark. Yeah.
In the dark. It earlier had been in light. Only this part was in the dark.
Well, what a great shot, because you see so many of Tiananmen, but never with snow.
Right.
And I know how cold it can get there.
Yes, no, it can be a little brisk, but I had different clothes I was wearing then.
All right. And next up, this one really caught my eye.
So this one's Bali. Actually, I lied a bit. My friends and I did a half-day photography tour, and one of the others was a photographer. The other one was having fun as well. And so we went out, and so this is sunrise over a volcano out in the countryside in Bali.
Oh,
so.
And on to?
This one's Myanmar. This is an orphanage in Myanmar, and it's a little poignant given what has happened in history since then. When I asked our guide, this was part of this tour, we had the photography guide, and then we also had local guides, and I asked if all these children were orphans, and I was told that no, they weren't. They were families from the countryside, and the parents were worried about them getting conscripted into becoming child soldiers. And so the parents would send their sons to the orphanages to keep them safe. And given how things have blown up since then, it was with good reason that they did that. So the children are there. The expectation is not that they will stay a monk for the rest of their lives, but if they choose to, they're able to.
But you certainly captured the emotion in that moment.
Yeah, the poor little boys, they were trying so hard, and when they're supposed to be praying, you could see some of them just really like, I'm praying, I promise I'm praying, along with the occasional ones who were trying not to fall asleep.
And then I think the next picture goes a little deeper into that.
Yeah,
really
this is a couple of the boys who are with me here. So I've ended up with quite a few travel, I guess, environmental portraits, but almost everyone I've always taken a moment to make sure they were okay with me taking the photo. And so I have there's another one coming up. Yes, this next one, that's what I thought. So this is not I didn't stand across the way. I went up to her and asked if it was okay. And this is in Myanmar. It's around Inle Lake, and this headdress here signifies that they were actually from the mountain areas around the lake. They're not from the lake area itself, and so there's very distinct patterns, and then also there's only a slight bit on her face, but they put sandalwood, like a powder on their faces, and it's to protect from the sun and mosquitoes and things. So this was a market near the lake.
Which is beautiful. Wow.
Back in Bali.
Back in Bali.
Yes, this is that same sunrise, but a little bit different location with more of the rice fields in front. And this is one honorable mention. This is, like I said, this is me trying to find inspiration in places where I hadn't thought to look for inspiration.
Like the kitchen.
Like the kitchen. And I had done some playing with, what kinds of things can you do? And I'd seen something similar to this online, and so I set out to reproduce it. And I'm kind of happy with how it turned out. This is also in the market in Bali, and we were walking around, and he just had this look like, I feel like he sort of looks like somewhere between serene and life hasn't been easy. And he was just sitting there and I asked him if he was okay, and he just sort of straightened up a little bit more and was happy to let me do that. So it was a moment.
Share that moment.
Yes.
For sure. Exactly. All right. Well, yeah, thank you for sharing those pictures. And we have another surprise for you. The cover of our May Southern Exposure has one of Keary's pictures. And she's going to tell us about the Happy Groom.
The Happy Groom, yes. Right. So my friends knew that I liked taking photos. And there was a wedding in the village next to where I was living, where they were having a very traditional style wedding. This isn't necessarily common now in Beijing. And so the groom actually rode in on a horse, and the wife was in the sedan chair, covered so nobody could see her. She had the veil over her face. I have another photo of the two of them where she's got the veil up and did this. But so I went back. She called me and said I need to go take photos, and so we did. We wandered around. We chatted a little bit with the bride and groom. This was his choice of pose because this is a very traditional Chinese pose here, and with his traditional Chinese clothing, and wandered around and talked to some of the guests and did not stay for the actual ceremony, the events themselves.
You didn't crash the wedding.
I didn't fully crash. I kind of wandered around it as the activities were getting going.
That's wonderful. Well, I know you have a lot of wonderful pictures. Do you have an online gallery or someplace where you can see them
all I have is a Flickr site that is with I think I have changed it to K.E. Gottlieb, but it probably also still shows up under K.E. Leo as well. I have ideas. The intent is to do a website more or something, but it hasn't happened yet.
Yeah,
there's been things like getting married and other stuff that's happened in instead.
Like that. So, but yes, I did see some of the pictures out there. Just absolutely, I took a trip.
Thank you.
Along with your pictures. It was wonderful. All right. There anything else that you'd like to leave us with? Any thoughts, famous quotes?
Well, I can't
to live by.
I can't sit here at work and not say, "Come visit us at Valentine." As you can see, the garden is lovely. No, I'm just enjoying being a part of this, and I'm happy that sort of two worlds I've created. Two of my worlds here in Richmond have overlapped with the Camera Club and with my work here at the Valentine. That they have fed into each other. So it's a nice part of feeling like I'm a part of the fabric here. So
we're happy to have you here in Richmond, and happy to have you part of our Camera Club of Richmond. All right. Thank you, Keary.
Thank you. So we're a Richmond History Museum here at the Valentine Museum. So this is our main gallery. This is Richmond, Virginia. And it's not like other museums. We're not categorized chronologically. We're categorized by themes of where do we live and what do we produce. And so all of these objects range from, across all walks of Richmond life. I believe the oldest artifact is a projectile pointer arrowhead about 11,000 years old, and the newest object on display are some gourds by a Native American artist that's a little over a year old. We also have an exhibit on called Sign Spotting, about signage through history, and actually this week we have another exhibit opening downstairs that is about the 1890s in Richmond, because of being the time period that the museum was founded. So this photography on the wall here is related to the history of the museum, 125 years. And then the photography in here is from the Cook collection, late 1800s, early 1900s. This is a small part of the collection. I believe, I've been told it's pushing, it's tens of thousands of glass plates, history of Richmond. A lot of them are available on the database on the museum website.